In Las Vegas. Here's Adrian Murfitt. He's 35. He has been confirmed dead by a close friend who knew he was coming here for that concert last night, and he was definitely among the people who lost his life. We'll continue on here. Lisa Romero looks just a kindly, motherly face here. She was also killed by this gunman last night. Here's Jordan McEldoon. He was among the people who was killed. He is pictured here in Las Vegas last year, so this is a place he liked to come and vacation and enjoy, as we appreciate so many people do. He was with a woman who appears to be his girlfriend. We're not sure of what her fate was when the shooting stopped last night. Look at this young man here. Lost him. His name is Quentin Robbins. He's no longer with us because of the actions of this lone madman who shot down on this crowd from up 32 stories up at Mandalay Bay. These people had nowhere to go to stay safe. And we just continue to look through the photos here. Again, this coming to us from the Daily Mail publication, putting these photos and brief stories together. Jessica Klimchuk here was killed last night. And as we continue on, the list goes on and on. Here's a happy couple, and I'm just reading this as I'm reading it to you, but this is Denise Salmon Berditas. She was among the people who were murdered here in town last night, and she's pictured with her husband here, Tony. This is actually at the festival. I don't know if you can see, it says the Route 91 Harvest up here. So this is a photograph that they took, having a good time. About 9:30 last night, it looks like, just minutes before that gunman opened fire. So, the list goes on and on. See if we can get a couple more here. Look at this smiling couple here. Let's read a little bit about them. That's Sonny Melton, 29, there on the right, died saving his surgeon wife, Heather, saving her life when this gunman opened fire. And so he shielded his wife from the bullets, and he gave his life, saving hers, Marie. So many stories beginning to come out about the people that we've lost in this horrible attack. Yeah, and many of those people still here in our city, of course, recovering at area hospitals. Again, at the bottom of your screen, you see there 58 killed, more than 500 injured. And the focus on heroism, so important right now, with a lot of people just trying to find some way to find solace out of a very somber situation. A live look once again at Mandalay Bay. Here we are past 2 o'clock. Now let's get you updated on what we know so far. Besides the death toll, we know that Stephen Paddock, after 10 o'clock last night, somehow made his way through a window on the 32nd floor of this resort. And we understand it was described as a very expensive suite there, one that he checked into Friday night. So for 3 days, he saw people coming together for this country music festival. It is an outdoor festival, and he perhaps watched them from his hotel room and broke through this hotel window, and that is when he pointed his weapon at this crowd and fired indiscriminately. This video from the concert showing Jason Aldean on the stage there. And as we watch, now you hear the barrage of bullets coming down. Even the person who's taking this video apparently not aware of what's happening. And Jason also on stage performing, not really aware, but you hear he stops, drops his guitar, we understand, and then makes his way off stage. He was one of the many people stuck there on the strip. He couldn't get out because obviously it was a crime scene. And it was about 5 a.m. when our own Kim Wagner, doing live shots, Kim, at the far end of the strip, saw him and some of his bandmates at a gas station off the Sunset of the Boulevard. Finally leaving after all those hours. Yeah, that sound of automatic gunfire is not something that you're supposed to hear in the streets of America. Fully automatic weapons are not allowed to be possessed by anybody. We hear a lot about assault-style weapons, and those are most often replicas of something like an AK-47, and they can take a big clip and can do a lot of damage, as we've seen, but those are one bullet for every trigger pull. That's a semi-automatic weapon. An automatic weapon is one that's been modified to just continue to fire as you pull, you pull the trigger once, and it just continues like that. And so to hear that sound echoing through our hometown at a place where people came together just to celebrate life and have a nice evening, it's just so chilling every time you hear it. Yeah, absolutely. And let's hear now from Tiffany Blasco. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us here live on News 3.
We understand you have a friend who was shot last night during this rampage.
Yes, hi. My friend, I've known them for about 20 years, and her mother were both shot, the mom and the two daughters, and they had some friends there too. And yeah, the daughter was shot in the arm, and she came out okay. And the mom was shot in the chest, and they couldn't find her. And I think that was the part that was so scary for all of us, was that we just had no idea where she was, kind of checking Facebook constantly over the night and then in the morning. They did end up finding her this morning, and she is in good care. She's still in critical condition, but she's alive, and that's really awesome.
Thank God for that. And I cannot imagine what those very nervous and worrisome, minutes and hours were before you were able to finally get a handle on exactly what her condition was.
Yeah, and it wasn't just us. I mean, they have a huge community. They own a small business here in town, and these are, all of our kids are also so worried for their family because they're dance teachers. And so they not only have all of us that are worried, but a whole bunch of little girls that are afraid and scared, and they want to know what's going on too.
So it was a mother and two daughters, and you said all of them sustained gunshots?
No, just one of the daughters and then the mother.
Gotcha.
So Tiffany, let's go ahead and talk about what happened last night. Did you start getting frantic calls after 10 o'clock or in the middle of the night?
Well, I saw a post on Facebook, and I don't even remember who posted it. And I immediately sent them a Facebook message, because that's how you contact people these days.
Right.
And I got nothing. No check marks, no nothing. And of course, that's when you start freaking out. So I ended up messaging the mom. I didn't realize that she was there with them. And I was like, just commenting to see if she knew anything and if the girls were okay, and nothing. And then one of our friends posted that they did get a hold of Paige, and that's when we found out that she had sustained a gunshot wound to her arm, and then the mom was shot to the chest. Wow,
and both have survived to this point, as you updated us. We appreciate that. To talk with somebody who this hit so close to home for you because of your relationship with these victims, how are you doing, and what are you going through now?
Well, I've never really experienced anything like this. So, I mean, it's really weird to have this happen so close to home, and it's really weird to have friends that have been hurt. I mean, that is just so bizarre. And I'm really impressed. This sounds really odd, I guess, but I'm so impressed at how the community has come together. And we had one of the family members who also has their daughter at the dance dynamics too. And she immediately was like, let's get food to the family, and let's do this and let's do that. And I'm sitting here like, what do I even do to help them? And somebody had posted, is there a way that we can submit donations? And I'm like, I know how to do that. Like, I can do that. So I liked it because I had a task. I had something that I could do for the family, because, like, what do you do?
Something concrete to make a difference. Yeah, and we appreciate you bringing up the outpouring of compassion from people here in Las Vegas, and we've tried to make that the focus of much of our coverage, because, as we were saying earlier, as devastating as this is the act of one person, and then when we see in our live pictures all over town, dozens and hundreds of people coming together in response, it's important to keep that math equation in mind, I think, as we all try to deal with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiffany, thank you so much for your insight. Earlier, we had Brian Rogers, who is with Community Ambulance. He had his own daughter out at the event. So here he is. He's an EMT. He's obviously a first responder. He's hearing from his own daughter saying, Dad, we're getting shot at. I'm hiding behind this water tank here. There's no place for her to hide. And for him to have seen so much trauma, he was here on set with us, Jim, you and I, we could tell that he was so emotional, and he just knew that our city has forever changed. But again, going back to what you were saying, this was the work of one gunman.
Yes.
So much heart has now moved in and said there's more good in the world.
Yes, and this is a story that's happening in our hometown here in Las Vegas, but it's spread all the way across the country, that outpouring of compassion, and we've seen it on social media and also at the White House, where you see in Washington in these live pictures, the flags are at half-staff. That was ordered by our president, who also spoke about what happened here in Las Vegas. Let's listen to him.
And it's Delaney in at the shooting guard. Right wing. Just 5 to shoot.
Thank you.
Here's Jackson.
My fellow Americans, we are joined together today in sadness, shock, and grief. Last night, a gunman opened fire in a large crowd at a country music concert in Las Vegas, Nevada. He brutally murdered more than 50 people.
Never dies.
Outstanding start. All right, so looks like we were having maybe a few audio issues there with the president's remarks, but that was made earlier today. A live look now at Mandalay Bay, where the festival right below this location is still very much a crime scene, and what we are learning more about the room where the shooter, Stephen Paddock, was holed up was the fact that he had, what, maybe close to 20 guns now in that room, is what we understand.
Yeah, 17 has now been confirmed, and that goes, kind of firms up what the sheriff was saying earlier. I think he said more than 10, and we had some of our sources telling us, you know, closer into the teens, and now it's been confirmed 17 guns in that room, and again goes back to the planning and the preparation, because I don't know how you get 17 guns up to the 32nd floor at Mandalay Bay. You know, it can't be all at once, and so I don't know exactly, you know, they're pouring through surveillance video now. They will be able to trace every single step he took in those 3 days he spent at Mandalay Bay before he opened fire last night.
Kim Wagner reached out to her sources, and she said not only were all those weapons found in there, but hundreds of rounds of ammunition. And so her source describes that scene as an arsenal where he had the resources to do far more damage.
Yeah, we're also hearing, we'll have to wait to find out more about this, but that he had come up with ways to monitor what was going on down below, or monitor police. We're keeping a close eye on them somehow, so we'll wait to find out what other evidence is collected, not only from that room with the guns and the ammo and everything else, but also, you know, maybe other areas of the hotel. We'll have to find out.
And maybe what could also be learned from his home there in Mesquite. We know that the FBI was there earlier today. We can presume that they're still there now. At one point, there were some concerns of maybe a booby trap or explosives, so members of the community there, his neighbors, were being told to stay away.
Yeah.
But we will be working through, again, so much here to figure out not only how was he able to get all those weapons into the Mandalay Bay here at the 32nd floor at this suite. I mean, you have security throughout the entire property.
Right.
People also saying security at the festival was great. But how do you stop someone spraying bullets from a vantage point? You're perched up above everybody.
Yeah, and this does not fit any of the profiles of what we've seen before. There's nothing in this guy's past, by all accounts, at this point, and the investigation, you know, continues. But a 64-year-old of means had done well. It sounded like in the real estate business. He's living out in a retirement community in Mesquite. His brother in Florida saying, you know, no affiliation with any fringe groups, no beef with anybody, certainly no, ties to any extremist groups that he knew of. And you know, ISIS came out right away and said, oh, he's one of our soldiers. But everybody from the FBI on down is saying there's no evidence of that, and even the people who knew him. The family had an interesting past. Their father was a bank robber, and at one point was on the FBI's most wanted list. And this is ancient history now. It doesn't sound like either of the brothers were that close with father. But yeah, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, for whatever reason, came down to Las Vegas from Mesquite, checked into Mandalay Bay on Thursday night, right, the 28th, and 3 days later unleashes this horrible carnage on a crowd of people across the street from Mandalay Bay who just come out on a beautiful wonderful evening, early fall here to hear some music and to celebrate life together. And this happens.
And when police finally made their way into that hotel room, he had died of a self-inflicted gunshot. He took his own life, and that's what SWAT found after they made their way into that room. And what we last heard from Metro was that the actual festival site is still a crime scene, that the bodies are still there, and they will likely be there for hours as they continue to make their way through investigating.
Yes, so don't even try to get anywhere close to Mandalay Bay right now. All of the streets around the resort are blocked off because it is an active crime scene investigation. I know that they're slowly beginning the process now of getting people, you know, who were checked into the hotel and came here for the concert. They're getting them out of the hotel now, but that's a process that will take a while as well.
Let's go ahead and talk about the good progress that we are seeing now. We want to point you back to Clark County Commissioner Steve Sisolak's GoFundMe page. He started this in the middle of the morning around 9 a.m. and his goal was $2 million. And look at that. Here we are just a few hours later topping the $1 million mark.
Yeah, it's popped up $100,000 in just a few minutes here since we last checked, and also making progress treating the wounded. University Medical Center had a total of 104 patients brought there. 40 so far have been treated for their wounds and sent home and released. So they're in good shape. 12 still in critical condition, and this is just at UMC. And sadly, of the 104 people who were brought there with gunshot wounds, 4 of them, they were not able to save their lives, and so they have passed at the hospital.
Yeah, so we want to continue to bring you these encouraging numbers, of course. Our hearts go out to those who have lost lives, but for those who are still surviving, who are being treated right now, our thoughts are definitely with you as well. Going back to Metro, the last press conference was middle of the morning. It looks like they will be holding another one in about a half hour, so we will be bringing that press conference to you live as soon as that happens. But so much more to come from this investigation, not just from the gunman, but of course how he got those the rifles into his room, as we've already confirmed with our sources.
Right.
And you know, did he have plans for this? Did he talk to anybody about this? We know that he has a girlfriend who is out of the country right now. She's been identified as a person of interest. We don't know if Metro has actually spoken to her yet, or law enforcement, or the FBI. But yeah, so many answers still being sought out.
And we're finding out more about the people, the victims. We're trying to keep our focus on them as much as possible. And on the phone with us right now is Cheyenne. And I understand, hello, Cheyenne, can you hear us?
Yeah, this is Cheyenne.
And I understand that you have a friend who was at the concert last night?
Yes, she was.
And was she wounded?
Thanks for the great interview.
She was. She was hit by a bullet.
And do you have any update on her condition at this point?
She is in stable condition. She is in a lot of pain, but she is aware of what's going on around her, and she has she's expected to recover well.
Well, thank God for that. It sounds like you've been in pretty close touch, either by text or some other way. What can you tell us about?
I'm actually at the hospital.
You're at the hospital with her. Is she able to talk with us by chance?
She's not.
Okay.
She's not able
well, then
to talk right now.
you speak for her and tell us what she told you about the moment this started and what was going through her mind.
I think that, you know, everything is still so incredibly shocking to her right now. That's what she said to me. She said, you know, you never know, you never think something like this will happen to you, and then it does, which unfortunately we hear a lot lately. So it was chaos, you know, people running, jumping over fences, trying to get out. You know, she had a friend with her there who they both managed to get out together, and just people were, you know, putting people in their cars and driving them to the hospital, and everyone was helping each other out on the ground. Anyone who was medical personnel was trying to help, so that was positive amid all of that.
Did you say, Cheyenne, how your friend made it to the hospital?
I think that, or I know she was assisted by a couple different people to get there.
Gotcha.
It really is incredible. Cheyenne, did you also say which hospital you are at right now?
Tight defense on him.
I did not say which hospital I'm at right now. She's at the, I know there are a lot of people at all the different hospitals, so.
Okay. Well, we want to respect your friend's
Yeah,
privacy.
yeah, absolutely. But I did want to just get a description of what is the hospital floor like where you are right now. Are the rooms also packed with people in your same situation who are by a loved one's side?
I mean, it was pretty crazy just getting in. There are, police at every single entrance. You have to explain who you are and why you're here. And I had a little trouble getting in at first, but I explained that my friend was in the hospital and her mother had asked me to come. She's out of town. She was just here for the weekend, so she doesn't have any family here right now.
Well, we're certainly glad to hear that you are there by her side and offering comfort to her as well. One thing that we're also looking into is how communication was that night, and how did you find out about the rampage on the Strip? Were they texting you, or were you just finding out on social media?
I actually live right off of the Strip, so
did you hear the gunshots?
I didn't hear the gunshots. I could hear all the sirens, and I could hear the police officers yelling, boo, boo, boo. But I didn't hear the gunshots. And a friend of mine texted me to tell me about Kristen, and as soon as I found out, I drove here.
Well, thank God that she's been stabilized, and we're very thankful to hear that news, and we appreciate you spending some time on the phone with us today, Cheyenne. Take care, and tell your friend as well that our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family.
Well, I just wanted to add that we've started a GoFundMe because she has a lot of expenses that she's a student at the University of Florida, and obviously students are going to need financial support in a time like this, and so we've started a GoFundMe, and it would really help her and her family out if people could donate. Is there a way that I can give you that information?
Yeah, we'll have you give it to our producer here off the air, and we'll probably be collecting a list of those because there is a main one that we've been talking about, but we'll let you go here on the air and let you give that to our producer, and thank you again for your time. Yeah,
thank you, Cheyenne, for that. Steve Sisolak has created this GoFundMe page. You started it this morning about 9 a.m. and look at where we are now here at 2:30 in the afternoon, approaching that $2 million goal, and all the money here will go to survivors and also family members of those who lost loved ones in this tragedy. All right, let's take you live as close as we can get to the scene. Denise Roche is down on the Strip right now, and we've talked about all the streets anywhere near the front of Mandalay being closed off, but tell us where you are and what you're seeing now, Denise.
Yeah, guys, we're going on almost 17 hours out now from this shooting, and parts of Las Vegas Boulevard, of course, remain closed right in front of that concert venue. In fact, if you go right down the street right here, you can see it is closed at Russell. No traffic getting through at Russell. Latest update again, 58 killed, more than 500 injured when Stephen Paddock opened fire on that music festival. Law enforcement says there is no apparent link to terrorism. Paddock was not known to law enforcement. But through all the horror, we have been seeing so many examples out here of Las Vegans coming together. John DeMea, he is a nurse at Sunrise Hospital. He worked all night and then came out here today. We saw him standing on a corner holding a sign that said Las Vegas Strong. He says our community is so much stronger than one madman intent on murder. And again, it was his job last night to treat and comfort victims. He says he went into robot mode at the time, just doing his job, but later he went home, had to decompress and think about what he saw. And as you can imagine, what he saw was horror. Now, Sheriff Lombardo says that collecting the evidence and documenting the scene out here will take a very long time. So as I walk back into the shot, no word yet on when all this here will clear and when Las Vegas Boulevard will be fully reopened. Reporting live, I'm Denise Roche for News 3. Let's go back to you in the studio.
All right, Denise, thank you for that. And as she said, it is 17 hours after the fact. And look, the strip's still very much closed off, parts of it anyway, as police still continue their investigation.
Yep, and we are less than a half hour away now from our next update from the official sources at Metro. We expect a briefing from the sheriff, and they've been able to put so much of this together in such short order, even earlier this morning when he briefed the media on what they've been able to find out. And so we expect new information to come out of that. We will bring it to you live coming up right at the top of the hour is the plan at 3 o'clock. That's what they're saying from Metro headquarters. But obviously, on a day like today, we understand that we'll see when it happens. We'll bring it to you.
Exactly. They may not hit 3 o'clock exactly, but they will be there in front of our cameras. Our John Trainer will actually be there at Metro headquarters with that story. Let's go ahead and go now to Faith Jesse, who joins us live outside of UMC. At the last press conference, Faith, Metro said that 58 people had been confirmed dead, more than 500 injured. We know that a lot of the injured were taken there to UMC. Describe the scene where you're standing now.
Hi, Marie. Well, this scene has changed drastically over the hours since we got here about 3 o'clock in the morning, but people started coming in just after those shots rang out. Right around 11 o'clock, I believe, is when they saw the start of what would be what some people are describing as a controlled chaos. Take a look here. It looks rather calm behind me. What we're seeing are people coming in and out of the hospital, people that are friends and family of the victim. We've actually seen a couple of victims with minor injuries come out. I know our Kelsey Thomas is out here. She's been talking. She spoke with a woman who fell on the ground as she was running away, had glass shards in her arm, and they had to be removed. So that's what we're hearing. And, you know, another thing we're seeing is a huge flow of volunteers, people with buckets of water or snacks, offering them to everyone outside and inside of the hospital, as well as volunteers just assisting where they can be, where they're needed. What else can we say? So right now, like I said, rather calm. We were hearing that 104 victims were brought to UMC. 4 of them, unfortunately, passed away from their injuries. 12 of them still in critical condition, but new information, we're hearing that 40 people were treated and were discharged. So that is great news today. And one other thing that we're hearing now is a huge need for blood. And there's actually a blood drive taking place right around the corner here, 901 North Rancho Lane. If you're in the UMC area, they are asking for you all to donate blood. Blood is only good for 7 days, so they're trying to get as much of it as possible. 2 other areas, 6930 West Charleston in Las Vegas, 601 Whitney Ranch Drive in Henderson. They are really pushing. Anytime we see a nurse or ask them how is everything going, they're asking for us to please tell people the urgency, the need for blood, also the need for help. If you have a helping hand, if you have the opportunity to go out to the store, buy a case of water, buy some snacks and bring them down here, they are very, very they're in need. They're asking you for help, and they're also asking you to deliver that water and snacks to the blood drive facilities, because a lot of the people that are out there volunteering, a lot of people giving blood, are needing that as well. So that's what we're hearing right now. We're staying on top of this for you, speaking to people as they come in and out of the hospital. For now, I'm Faith Jesse reporting. News 3.
All right, Faith, thank you for that. And just one more sad confirmation coming in from the Metropolitan Police Department. We've been telling you that one of their off-duty officers was wounded in this attack, just happened to be down there. And we're not sure if we're talking about the same officer, but the department is letting us know that one of their officers was killed, was lost in this mass shooting, and that many more of their employees, just like many other businesses here in town, family members were down there. Some have significant injuries, some are still being operated on right now. So this is, as the department investigates this, they're also mourning the loss of one of their own and all their other families that are affected.
Well, no doubt this tragedy has affected every single person who calls this place home. And then, of course, Latoya Stillman. Latoya, you were here through about 4:30 this morning reporting on this shortly after those bullets started coming down on people. I'm going to switch seats with you as you can come in here, and we obviously want to welcome you in our wall-to-wall coverage. But what a night for you, and what a day as well.
Right, just one of where you're just in shock, disbelief. The first reports, when I got the call from our boss saying come in, we thought that at that point as many as 30 people were hit, and I thought, no way.
That seemed like too many.
It seemed like way too many. This is going to be pared down. They get conflicting reports all the time, and then it just seemed like the longer the night went on, the worse it got. And at one point, You know, we were reeling when we heard 20, and then when we heard that that number had doubled at that point to 50. Reed and I were here at the desk, and we clasped hands because we could not believe that many people, especially at the hands of one person. And you hear these stories, one person after the other, as you heard from the women that have called in today. These people are in our community. These are real people. They're people who had something to do today. And unfortunately, this madman that we're still trying to learn as much as we can about decided to do what he did, and now lives are forever changed because of it.
Yep. A city forever changed.
People go out to an outdoor concert to enjoy a Sunday evening having no idea that it would be the last night of their lives. And it really is staggering when you talk about the numbers. 58 is high enough, and let's make sure, let's all hope and pray that it stays right there. But the 500 injured, now we don't know that all of those are gunshot wounds.
Right.
Some people are going to be injuries with everyone just trying to get out of there, but still the scope of this, as you say, and the more we talk about it, you know, you're used to hearing that number, but it's good that you come in and kind of remind us and everybody that it's just not, that number doesn't make sense. You didn't want to accept it as it was growing last night.
Exactly, and you know, it's one of those things where you see the worst of times and then also the best of humanity because of the stories of people literally helping strangers. When at a time when they're fearing for their own lives, they're taking people to the hospital, they're trying to help them in any way possible. We heard stories of people paying for people to get transportation out of this danger zone. And so those are the things that you can kind of hold on to, but at the same time, a lot of people still on the edge of their seats and not knowing, because we have so many that are still injured, so many people hoping, wishing, praying that their person doesn't become one of the ones who succumbs to this tragedy. And so a lot happening today, but I'm really encouraged by all the people who are willing to help. I mean, you see that line out there at the Blood Donation Center.
It's incredible.
Incredible. And so many people, and I cannot stress this enough, they think that this is a one-dimensional city, that it's a couple of miles long, this Las Vegas Strip. But we're proving today that we are a mighty people, we are people who have a sense of community, and we will be here for the long haul to help each other get through this.
Well, we've been getting emails as well from the regarding all these visuals around town. Several faith groups, all different kinds of religions, saying we are coming together to just pray for each other, pray as a community, no matter which God you pray to, but we are here for each other to hug, to embrace.
Right, exactly. And there will be many services around town at churches and places of worship. We told you about the big one down at City Hall. Mayor Carolyn Goodman is leading that. It's interfaith, and if you feel like you just want to come out and kind of take a stand against this kind of violence and just to be with people and to get some comfort from being in a group like that, that's going to happen at 5 o'clock this evening. Now, Kim Wagner's been down really closest to the scene throughout the very early morning hours, and that gave her the vantage point of talking with people who were walking by who had been caught up in this. So here's some of the people that she talked to just hours ago. Well, we'll work to get that lined up. I know that it's put together here somewhere, so we'll get that on the air for you as soon as we can get that video together.
Right, and a lot of people, obviously, you know, going to social media to try to find out if their people are okay. There is a check-in system where you can let people know that you are, in fact, okay. And I know that people all over the country, as soon as they heard about this, they're wanting to know about any and everyone who has been affected by this, if they know someone who is in this area. Sadly, the coroner's office had to set up their own center where they're notifying victims, family members of victims who did not make it. And they're doing that by appointment only. That is at the convention center, so that is something that people need to be aware of. If in fact you feel that you have someone that is there. We talked about the donations, several locations where people are giving blood. They're desperately needing O-type blood types, and they're accepting people by walk-in only. So many centers that need your help today if you can. A lot of people wondering, what can I do? That is something that you can do. We've talked about the GoFundMe accounts. A lot of people taking it upon themselves if they have a family member or a friend who was injured in all of this, saying, okay, we're going to do what we can to try to help them as much as possible. The injuries, as you can imagine, likely extensive. This is something that the people who are injured are going to be dealing with for a long time. This is also something that we as a community will be dealing with as a long time. We mentioned the churches having prayer services, but one church, The Crossing, which is at Windmill Campus, actually saying they have pastors on hand until 9 p.m. tonight for anyone who needs prayer in this situation. So a lot of people coming together saying, we're here for you. We want to listen. We want to talk this out. This is something that is very hard to understand. I was talking to Reed Cowan, who, as you know, has 3 small children.
Yep.
And I said, it's hard for us to put our brains around
Our adult brains, yeah.
Right. How do you tell 2 9-year-olds and a 5-year-old what's going on?
I don't know, but I think that you brought up a good point when you first rejoined us here. Is it's important to remember that when you see the pictures outside the blood centers and everything else, that's a lot of people. And we're talking about the actions of one deranged, sick, sinister man. One person against all the other response that you're seeing. And if you can try to keep that math in mind, and that's what we're talking about here, that there were so many more good people who have responded to this than the one evil person who caused it. And we're just getting word in now, not a big surprise, but the governor has declared a state of emergency here in Clark County because of what's happened and the response. And this frees up more resources from the state, because there's going to be a lot of fill that's going to be needed. You know, a lot of the ambulance drivers and medical staff have been working 24/7. So
right.
We're a city of 2 million people. Life is going to go on, and we're going to need those resources as well. So the governor has declared a state of emergency here in Clark County that is effective immediately.
And he came out last night, early this morning, basically, of course, offering his condolences, keeping the victims and those injured top of mind, but also saying that this person that we now know is 64-year-old Stephen Paddock is a coward, plain and simple.
Yep, and the last cowardly act to take his own life rather than to answer for this and try to, if there's any way to answer for it, but at least to face justice in the wake of this, took his own life right as police were breaching that door on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay. We are here, we've been telling you about Allegiant airlines offering to either fly victims' families in or help people get out and not charge them. Now we understand that all the big U.S. airlines are following suit and allowing people at least to change their flights to or from Las Vegas without facing any penalties. And we're talking about the big ones, American, Delta, Alaska, which is absolutely the right thing to do as the response to this mass shooting and this horrible tragedy here in Las Vegas continues to come in.
Right, and we're looking at video now of what was a fun moment, and then you hear it. Let's just take a moment to listen to this rapid fire. So we counted last night the first barrage of bullets, probably about 12 to 14 minutes in length, and then it was a time when it stopped, and there it goes again, nonstop.
Well, it's been confirmed now, 17 weapons inside that hotel room, and it is sounds from the automatic gunfire that you hear, sustained for as many minutes as you're talking about, LaToya, that he had, guns preloaded at the ready to pick up the next one and to continue firing down on this crowd. And to hear that automatic gunfire, it's just so chilling, because that's how many people were able to be targeted in such a short order of about 20 minutes as this went on. Exactly, meaning them not knowing where this was coming from. And we're looking at this 32nd floor here of the Mandalay Bay, and you'll notice that there are 2 holes in those windows. So what we're learning is that he used some type of device, kind of like a hammer, to knock those windows out. And some people were confused because of that, thinking, well, surely there had to be more than one person. Right. But what we're learning about Stephen Paddock is that he was a wealthy man, and that he apparently got a expensive room, a suite that was massive in size. And so if that is the case, then it stands to reason that it was big enough for him to go from 2 different vantage points, right, which is probably one of the reasons why they thought it was more than one person. Gotcha. And yeah, by all accounts, a 64-year-old guy with some money, like to play $100 a hand video poker in the high limit rooms there at our local casinos, and come down from Mesquite and do that from time to time. So it just boggles the mind to think of what could have set this guy off, set anyone off. But the more we're hearing about his background, and we hear from his brother in Florida saying there's nothing there. There's no, as far as he knew, he didn't have any extreme beliefs or associations with fringe groups, or certainly not, you know, any fundamentalist group or anything else. So
right,
it's
the
just
MO
a big
you
mystery.
normally expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We showed you the live picture there from inside Metro headquarters. That is where we expect to hear from Sheriff Joe Lombardo with an update on the investigation and everything that he knows coming up at the top of the hour. So we're about 12 and a half minutes away from that. We'll bring that to you live. We're watching that. That's why we put that live picture up there. We wanted to let you know that you won't miss a word of what the sheriff has to say.
Right, we're bringing in Phil Ramos now, who's retired from law enforcement. You spent 33 years in law enforcement. We're learning more about the suspect, but the more we learn, the more questions we have. When you hear his background, 64, retired accountant, wealthy.
Yeah, and you know, we were speaking earlier about when you're developing information on a person like this, you expect to hear some sort of nefarious activity in his past, you know, an arrest record or something that would make people say, oh, I knew he was capable of something like that. And this is completely opposite in this man's case. You know, he was had a significant amount of money. He appeared to be in any kind of mental distress to his friends and neighbors, his family. Completely shocked. So it's just so bizarre. The crime just doesn't fit the kind of personality that this man had. So it's going to be very interesting to see as this investigation develops. What were these dark secrets that
There's no red flags that you'd be looking for as a detective. And thank you for your service to our community. Talk to us now about what this department's going through. We know that they lost at least one officer who sounds like he was off duty at the concert. Many more families affected. Now they've got two scenes, one way out in Mesquite, which is a heavy investigation. Also here at Mandalay. What's going on with your department?
Well, you know, they're just going through such a traumatic situation right now, but they have to hold that all in check while they do their job. You know, they're finding out about this individual. They're working the crime scene. You know, you've got investigators standing over dead bodies for hours at a time trying to document and in the back of their mind, you know, they'll see somebody that reminds them of a friend or a family member, and you know, they say, thank God it's not somebody that I know. So while they're doing their job and doing it well, you know, it sits in the back of their mind. It could have been one of their friends there. So after this all settles down, and after a few days, the reality of it is going to kick in, and you can expect something like that.
And barring any type of manifesto, you know, they're talking to his brother, who said, I literally, according to reports, he talked to his brother not too long ago, and who asked about his mother, about Hurricane Irma, because he has ties to Florida. Barring that manifesto, what else can they glean from this? If family are saying, we never saw this coming.
Yeah, well, they'll be talking to his friends, people that were close to him. It doesn't sound like he had any immediate family members right here in the Vegas area or even up in Mesquite. So those that were closest to him, they'll be picking their brains as much as they can to figure out what was he doing in the last few days of his life before this happened, and was there anything out of the norm for this man that you can remember? Was he making weird comments? Was he doing strange things that would make you think, you know, what the heck is going on with this guy? So as they speak to their friends and relatives, they're also gathering all the documented evidence that they can at his house, at the room, at the other property that he has. I believe it's up in Reno. So all this information gathering and intelligence gathering is all going to come together, and hopefully they'll be able to come up with some idea of what led him to this. We have been, the department and all local agencies across the country have been training for mass casualty events, especially since the events of 9/11. Lots gone into it. We've seen a couple cars jump the curb and run into pedestrians and things like that. Nothing like this, obviously, but as you watch the response of your former department, what was going through your mind? Oh, I was just
With there's also going to be the mayor of the city, ATF supervisor, and a representative from the coroner's office. Thank you very much. This is Mayor of Las Vegas. The 32 cents per jump on everyone and all happy together. sorry? Do people start right at 3? What time is it right now?
6 p.m. Tell them it's 6 p.m. Probably.
I work for him. He doesn't work for me.
Tell them it's 6 p.m.
Time to roll out.
Carla, we're going to leave that door open?
Yeah, we don't have a choice. Sheriff is...
Okay, where's Carlos? Carlos, you ready? All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm obviously Sheriff Lombardo, Clark County. This will be our fourth media briefing since the incident took place yesterday evening. I'm going to give you just a short synopsis of our updates, and then we have other individuals here standing behind me that are going to make some comments, reference other issues associated with today's events. There's two things we're attempting to achieve. One is we have to finish processing the scenes. We have 3 separate scenes we are working now. Actually, it will be 4 at this point. So we have the 32nd floor of the room at the Mandalay Bay. We have the event location, the house in the ski. Standing by.
The truck is damaged.
At this point, we did last briefing. I was unable to tell you what we retrieved in the house of Mesquite. Retrieved in the excess. In excess of 18 additional firearms, some explosives, and several thousand rounds of ammunition, along with some electronic devices that we are evaluating at this point.
One of our trucks is gone. We can't move.
North of Nevada, and then
That's gotta hurt. Truck hit. We've lost him. Hell, this vehicle is...
Individuals that have died or passed away, 59. So what we're doing at this point, we have several people calling about personal items located at the stadium. We are assessing the scene. We will make arrangements for people that attended the stadium that believe they have personal items there to respond to the area, and we will help you retrieve your items. At this point, I want to bring Greg Castle forward on the Family Resource Center. Prior to that, I think it's important for, and I appreciate for you to put this out, for the people's families that are responding to the Las Vegas area. So for the family members at no charge, and that is the Boyd Group, Stations Casinos, the South Point with Mr. Gone, and also Siegel Suites. So one more time, the Boyd Group, Stations Casinos, the South Point with Mr. Gone. Individuals responding to the Las Vegas area in need of accommodations, those individual properties will accommodate you. So Greg.
Fire Chief of the Clark County Fire Department. And as the Sheriff said, there's a couple things I want to mention. The first off is the Family Assistance Center. The Family Assistance Center is set up right now. It's a combination of police department, fire department, the coroner's office, and other local entities working together to provide the services for the family, handle what has happened with their loved ones. They're providing all kinds of services. As the Sheriff said, many places have stepped up to provide flights, housing, food, transportation, and many other things. So that's a wonderful thing for our community to have come forward and have done. This facility is located in the South Hall. There's also a donation drop-off area that's been set up to facilitate people wanting to drop off non-perishable goods over there at that site, water and so forth. That entrance to that is off of Sierra Vista, right just west Joe W. Brown and Sierra Vista. So I'd like to take an opportunity right now to thank the men and women of the fire departments, the Clark County Fire Department, obviously very near and dear to my heart, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, Henderson Fire Department, and North Las Vegas Fire Department, as we were all teamed up there last night doing what we've trained plan in place, and we were able to execute that plan as well as we possibly could. We had 108 firefighters on scene. We have 155 unit hours just for the Clark County Fire Department alone spent last night handling that scene, teaming up with our partners from the law enforcement to reach as many people as I also want to take a moment to recognize Community Ambulance. They were there as a standby medical at that scene last night. They had 5 or 6 ambulances there. They immediately threw critically wounded patients into their ambulances and transported from that scene. And also American hands on deck. They brought in all of their employees. They rallied everything they could, from pickup trucks to vans to all their available ambulances, to bring extra medical supplies down to a staging area for us and to make those resources available to our community during that time of need. So I want to give a big shout out to those private ambulance companies. And from the fire department side, I'll take a few questions.
Are you able to say how many ambulances?
I could not quantify that, but I have worked here for 30 years, and I have never seen that many ambulances that I saw last night.
Tens, dozens, hundreds?
Dozens, dozens and dozens. That's 108 firefighters combined from those resources I mentioned, those 4 fire departments.
What types of injuries were there to the people transported to the hospital? Was it mostly gunshot wounds?
There was a wide range of injuries, you know, from gunshots to shrapnel wounds to trample injuries to people jumping fences trying to egress and getting hurt one way or another. So it was a wide range of those types of incidents, injuries.
Chief, process is, there's some who said it took a long time for people to finally get into the venue, or rescuers to finally get into the venue.
Well, we had multiple branches and divisions set up last night to cover that large area, and I can't speak to how long it took them to get into that venue, but we had some issues right out of the chute, or right out of the start, because things were going on. We didn't know where the gunfire was. We weren't sure it was safe to commit our people at that time, and that's some of our policies and procedures are to try and make our people as safe as possible. We know they're going to go into a dangerous situation. That's why we do it in a format with called a rescue task force with the police departments, which is something that even 10 years ago in this valley would have never taken place because we had never trained on it. We had never planned on it.
Were any firefighters or paramedics injured or ambulance attendants?
We had no on-duty injuries of any of our emergency response personnel last night.
Did you have any off-duty injuries?
From my fire department, no.
Greg, can we give John Budenberg
Sure.
a chance to
John.
verify the notification of the families?
Okay. Thanks, John. Hey, John.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Sheriff. Again, my name's John Fudenberg. I'm the coroner of Clark County, and I'd like to first of all just ask that everybody keeps those involved in this incident in their thoughts and prayers, and as well as the first responders, all government agencies, all of us that have come together and working on this incident. Please keep us in your thoughts and prayers, and know that we're working very hard to make sure that we take care of the families who have loved ones involved in this incident. I'd like to take a moment and talk a little bit more about the Family Assistance Center. As Chief Castle mentioned, we have that set up at the convention center. We're fully operational right there right now, and we've met with multiple families. We're continuing to interview the families, and the goal of that center is to provide families information about, to collect information from them so we can make the identifications as fast as possible. So we're working very hard at making those identifications out of respect for the family. I'd rather not go into any details about the decedents or their injuries at this point. I'm available to answer any questions that anybody may have. Yes, sir.
Is the Clark County Coroner's Office equipped to handle these many bodies, or has there been an issue with that?
Well, I would like to say we're about as equipped as anybody in the country. I don't know that anybody can be fully. Our county commission through the years, we've trained and we've exercised, and we're putting that training and exercising in place right now. And I think our staff, along with the police departments and fire departments, are doing a heck of a good job in handling this, all things considered. Yes, sir, Ken, go ahead.
You have to ask, do you have enough space at the coroner's office for 59 bodies?
We do have enough space right now, yes. Sir, go ahead. As of right now, all of the confirmed fatalities have been recovered. I believe that includes the shooter, but again, that number could be fluid. So you know, that number unfortunately may go up, and I don't want to give an exact number and confirmation at this point.
It does not include the sheriff.
Okay, thank you, Sheriff.
How's your staff? How are you handling this?
You know, I think we're handling it about as good as could be expected. I think everybody in this room, everybody in our county right now is suffering as a result of this tragedy. And our staff's doing a darn good job at managing it. Thank you.
Mr. Coroner, are you able to assess the type of injuries that led to these deaths? Were they all by gunshot?
You know, again, as Chief Castle mentioned, he spoke a little bit about the injuries. I'd rather not speak to the injuries. The families want answers, and I'd prefer, out of respect for them, to give them the answers before we make those public. So I'm not going to answer that at this time, Ken. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Sheriff?
Commissioner Sisler. Thank you once again for being here and spreading this information to our community. I want to reiterate what I said earlier, and I want to have a special shout out to the sheriff and as I said previously, when you see one of these men or women in their uniforms, please tell them thank you. They went in when everybody was running out, but for the fact that their selfless actions, we would have hundreds more casualties than we are currently facing. There's no doubt in my mind. I was on the crime scene. It's horrific, and these folks did an absolutely incredible job, went above and beyond. I want to assure everyone that, you know, it's in your control right now. Las Vegas people to continue to come here. We have been deluged with donations, people bringing sandwiches, bringing water, bringing blankets, bringing those sort of things. It's almost to the point we can't handle any more donations at the convention center. The sheriff and I spoke to you earlier regarding the blood donations. After we brought that out early this morning when the sheriff and I talked, and we put out a call for blood, and we have a 6 to 8 hour wait at all of our blood centers. And Friday. That's how far in advance we are. We set up a GoFundMe account because the sheriff and I thought that we could maybe help some of these victims with funeral expenses, with travel expenses. As it relates to the families, you're going to have to be coming in from out of town. We still have over 500 emergency rooms. We started that GoFundMe account. It now has almost 15,000 contributions in excess of $1.2 million. About what we're doing. The hate that this one individual, this lone wolf, rained down on our community and on the MGM Village Park was met with an outpouring of love by our entire community. And we will get through this together, and we'll get through this as one community. So we thank you very much for being here, and our thoughts and prayers are with all of the families.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Dina Titus. I represent Nevada's 1st District, which includes the fabulous Las Vegas Strip and the scene of this horrendous act. So many times I have welcomed people to Las Vegas conventions or special events, never imagined that I would be standing here trying to offer solace and service to those who would be harmed or killed by such an act. My office is serving as a clearing enforcement and first responders who have done such a good job, but we want to be there in any way we can. We've gotten many phone calls into the office from people around the country looking to find out where their folks are, were they hurt or in the hospital, were they killed. We're trying to pass that information on to the appropriate place. A couple of immigration calls that we're trying to help with as well. Mentioned, Thomas and Mack opened up as a temporary refuge for people who were put out of their hotel rooms. The Clark County School District has offered its counselors to the public if they are needed. We were contacted by Airbnb to come into town to see about family members. The community is stepping up. We heard acts of heroism, off-duty police officers helping people shelter, pointing out where they was being trampled. They were running out. Somebody grabbed them, pulled them into a van just to be safe, a total stranger. We were standing on the corner outside of UMC and a car slowed down and said, here. Las Vegas is resilient, and with everybody pulling together, we will get through this. So thank you very much to law enforcement, first responders, our fire department, those medical personnel who were. Everybody stepped up, and we can't say thank you enough.
Thank you. I'm Jackie Rosen, and I represent and I reiterate what everyone said here, our first responders, our hospital staff, our hotel staff, firefighters, ambulance, police, and I stand before you not just as a friend and a member of this community. And like Congresswoman Titus said, we are a strong community. We know how to fight, we know how to be resilient, and we know how to pull together, and that's our community partners, our hotels, Airbnb, our Lyft and Uber, our taxi drivers. We're going to do everything we can to support the victims, their families, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to do it together. That's helped us. Again, thank you.
Sheriff, thank you. And not a lot to add to what's already been said here. United States Senator Dean Heller, but what I do want to add is that we'll never forget October 1st, 2017. Remember here in Las Vegas. And it's a day that we'll remember for years to come as we remember and think about how dangerous this world can be. I'm very grateful to the Sheriff's Department, all the first responders, and everything that they've done. The help and the support from people around the country, the number of into this community is second to none. And I want to thank our whole congressional delegation for working together in this community. That is good. That is
Carolyn Goodman, Mayor of the great city of Las Vegas. The outpouring of attention, love, sympathy, and offers of help not only have come from around, and that we want to thank for sure all of the law enforcement and first responders that have come in from other parts of the state as well as from Los Angeles to help us out here. The issue that we're going to learn from. We haven't been able to keep up with it. People are frustrated. They love this community. They love what it represents, and they want to do something about it. It's been simply incredible, and to learn $1 million, you can just feel the heartbeat of the people that call Las Vegas and Nevada home. Most especially in talking, and I spent last night in the hospital how confused they were about the issue there, because as you know, when you go to one of these outdoor entertainment and even the inner side, the arena ones, you're usually getting, if they were up front and because they were in a confined environment,